Hi you guys, welcome to our third yin practice together. Grab your props, so a block if you have one, or blocks, or you could always use a large book or anything that could work as in place of a block. You can use your bolster if you have one, and if you don't have a bolster, a pillow or two or a cushion or two will do just fine for this practice. Grab some comfy clothes if you're not wearing them, so maybe a long sleeve shirt, maybe some cozy socks. That's what I normally like to wear, but I'm pretty warm. I got the fireplace behind me again today, and as long as you're comfortable, let us begin. So let's start on the backs, stretching the legs out in front of you, maybe taking a traditional corpse pose, feet a little wider than hip width apart, arms comfortably at your sides with the palms facing up. If you like the option of taking pentacle pose in yin, that's always an option, so the legs go as wider than your mat, arms, same thing, over the head, wider than the mat, palms facing upward. And you choose what feels right in your body. And then take a moment to settle in. So I always wiggle the shoulders away from the ears, maybe kind of wiggle out through the hips. Closing the eyes if you haven't done so yet. And taking your moment to fully arrive, no matter what you were just doing. So I just came from a yoga practice and getting groceries, and then kind of walked in, set up, and now here I am on my mat. So I'm physically here, but how can we really truly become present as well, and allow the mind to come into the present moment? And the best way that we can do that is by bringing our awareness to our breath. So right away, let's welcome in some long, full deep breaths. Big breaths in through the nose. Full deep breaths out through the nose. Two more big breaths. And then let your breath just come back to neutral, natural breath. Blink your eyes open, and then just kind of wiggle your fingers and toes just a little bit. Good. And then let's move into our first shape, our first pose. So put a bend into the knees. And then we know this as a half happy baby pose, but in yin it's called half stirrup. So hug your left knee in towards your chest, and then turn the sole of the left foot up towards the ceiling, and then your left hand grabs the outer edge, so the pinky toe side of that left foot. If this is too much, you always could bring your hands to the back of the knee. And then for yin, I like to bring my bolster underneath the knee, so hug it kind of right up against your hip if you're taking that option. And then your knee can just rest on the bolster or pillows or block or whatever you're using if you'd like to use a support. So using a prop here kind of takes the yang element out of it, or some people pronounce it yang element out of it, and makes it more yin-like. So less kind of work for the body when we can just soften the knee onto a prop. So keep the sole of the foot turning up towards the ceiling, and then you can decide if you want to keep your right knee bent, or maybe you prefer to straighten out the leg. That does intensify things, so you decide what feels right for you. And then just soften here, which brings us into are key principles in Yin, so we discussed them last practice. So there are 3 key principles. And the first one is softness. So the muscles are cool in Yin and relaxed. We come into every shape in a respectful way. So we're not pushing or striving to get anywhere. We're not trying to reach our maximum kind of stretch. We're just softening into it. And then the second key principle is stillness. So once you kind of adjust your body and adjust your props and get into a pose, then you find that stillness. So we try to avoid as much movement or fidgeting, wiggling as possible. We try and stay as still as we can, as present as we can. And then the third key principle being steadiness. So we get into the pose and we spend several minutes, kind of the average Yin pose is held anywhere between 2 and 5 minutes. There's some Yin teachers that hold them for up to 10 minutes, but it's holding the pose for several minutes, allowing the body to open up naturally, allowing time, so spending time, longer amounts of time than a normal practice in a pose is what will really open the body up and allow us to gain flexibility as well. Good, so find some deep breaths here. You could visualize your breath going right into the hip, the groin, or wherever else you're feeling this. And I didn't mention yet, your tickets out of a pose are pain and or panic. So if you're ever feeling any one of those 2 things, please come out of the pose. If you're just feeling discomfort, see if you can stay. See if you can just stay and breathe. Okay, let's find just a few more breaths here. So there's no particular breathing style in Yin. We're just reminded to breathe. Let's take 3 more breaths. And if your right leg is straight, put a bend back into that right knee. Slowly release that left foot, and then let's hug the knees in towards the chest. Take a few breaths here. Just feeling, just noticing. So notice how that left side feels compared to your right now. Good, and then bring the soles of the feet back to the mat, half stirrup pose on the other side. So the right knee will hug into the chest, sole of that right foot up towards the ceiling, grab a hold of the outer edge of the foot, or again back of the knee. Bring your props to the outside of that right leg, right hip if you're going there, and then slowly just lower the knee onto the prop. You decide, but the left leg, if you straightened it out on the first side, do the same thing just to keep balance within the body. And your left hand could be anywhere that works for you. It might be on the belly, you might prefer it out to the side, anything that maybe cactus the arm, whatever works for you here. To find that softness. Find that stillness. And as time goes on, we find that steadiness. So see if you can relax your shoulders, especially the right one, since we have a hold of the foot. See if you can relax any amount into that right shoulder. Noticing if this second side feels any different than the first, and if it does, just make a note of it. Make a note of which side was maybe a little tighter, maybe a little more challenging. Just notice. Be the witness to your thoughts as they arise, as they present themselves. So not to judge yourself, but just to be aware of. Here for about another minute. See if you can soften some more. Sending your breath right into any discomfort. Last breath. Slowly and gently release the foot. Let's hug both knees in towards the chest again. So a few moments, a few breaths here, just to witness. So these moments in between the poses, these transitions are just as important as the poses themselves. And really slowly roll yourself onto your side. Take a few breaths on your side. And then using the support of your hand or hands to help press yourself up to a comfortable seat. So cross-legged if that works for you. And then from here, grab a hold of your block if you have one. And we're just gonna bring our block, or you could use your bolster as well, on any level. So you can kind of play around with the position of the block and see what works for you. But I'm going to use the medium setting, that second level of the block. And then left elbow to the block. And then your hand can just hold the head. Reach your right arm up and over, and then hand again can come to the head just to rest. So we're feeling a stretch into that right side body. And then soften here. Always taking the first few seconds, so about first 30 seconds to readjust if you need. So if you want to change the setting on your block and you feel like you want to go a little bit deeper or a little bit higher, find what works for you and then settle and soften. Close the eyes if you wish, or just keep the gaze really soft. We're trying to keep ourselves inward throughout this practice, not allowing ourselves to get too distracted. So we won't stay here as long as we were in the last shape. But can we still soften and surrender? breath right into the side body. Visualize the breath going there. Take just a few more full and intentional breaths here. And really slowly start to bring yourself back up, nice and slow. Hands to the thighs or the knees, and just sit upright and close the eyes just for a few moments, a few breaths. Feel the sensations in that right side. This is what is known as the rebound effect in Yin. So just feel the rebound, be here. And then blink your eyes open. Let's set up for the second side. So block or prop to the outside of your right leg, and then your right elbow to the block, hand to head, and then reach the left arm up and over. And then again, you might bend the elbow, hand to the head, and then soften here. Let your left sitting bone get heavy. Noticing where your mind has maybe wandered. What comes up for you in these moments of stillness? So not just within the body, but what thoughts arise? What comes up within the mind when the body slows down? Just notice. Soften that left shoulder. A few more deep, intentional breaths here. Breath in. Exhale to slowly press yourself back up to a straight spine. And then again, close the eyes for a few breaths. Just feel. And blink the eyes open. And then let's come on to hands and knees. So I'll turn to the side. So coming into tabletop position. And then let's come into sleeping swan. So let's slide the left knee behind the left wrist. Right leg back behind you. So we know this as pigeon pose in our vinyasa or hatha practices. But in Yin, sleeping swan. So we're going to find a fold from here. So you might just fold down onto the forearms without a prop, or you might, I like to bring my bolster all the way underneath my belly and chest, and then rest myself, my upper body on the prop, on the bolster. So find what works for you. Relax your shoulders, relax your right foot and right toes. And in Yin, it's okay if the hip is lifting. You might place a block underneath that left sitting bone if it's too high. You might lean a little bit over to the left, or you might lean a little bit to the right. So we're not trying to square the body as much as we would in a regular yang practice. So settle in here once you're comfortable with your props, and then find that stillness, returning to the breath. Letting our breath be our anchor and our guide. And we can use the breath not just when we're on our mats, but we can allow our breath to be our anchor when we're off our mats in our everyday life as well. When we're stressed out or worried, sometimes all it takes is some awareness to your breath. A few deep breaths can make a world of difference. Soften the eyes, whether they're closed or open, soften. You know, I had to add this pose in. It's where 3 yin poses, or 3 yin classes rather, in, and I haven't included Sleeping Swan until now, so there's a few of you are probably wondering where it was or when it was coming, since we normally practice it quite often in yin. It's one of my favorites. Noticing what's coming up for you here, not just physically, but mentally. So getting into the hips again here, just as we were in our half stirrup. Notice if anything different comes up for you when you're in a hip opener. So our hips store our emotions, they're the junk drawer of the body. So lots of our baggage, emotional baggage, is stored in the hips. So it could even be baggage from childhood. It could be something that happened last week that we're dealing with. But that's where we store the emotions. And so when we practice yoga, and even more so practice yin, we're giving ourselves time to release these stored, the stored emotions. Noticing how you handle moments of not only stillness, but peace and quiet. So, especially if you're new to yin, how are you handling this stilling of the body, so trying not to move? And then how are you dealing with and handling this stilling of the mind? And the answer might be, it's really challenging and I'm really struggling and it's hard to stay present and my mind keeps wandering, and that's okay, that's normal. We just take note of it, and then we gently remind ourselves to come back to the present. Come back to this shape in your body and the sensations within this shape. Come back to this breath. Every breath is like a fresh start, a clean slate. Come back to this breath. Take a few more deep, full breaths here. And then moving really slowly, as my yoga teacher here says, move without haste. Slowly bring the hands to the mat. We're going to move ourselves into a child's pose. So the left knee will move back, the right knee a little bit forward. Props might move off to the side. And then just find any variation of child's pose, whether you like the knees together or not. Let the head rest. Let the heart melt. A moment again to observe the left side compared to the right, right side compared to the left. And then let's make our way back onto all fours. So back into that tabletop position. Setting up for the second side, so right knee will slide behind that right wrist, and then left leg back behind. Good. Again, props as needed. And then slowly finding your fold forward if that's the option you're taking to lay over a bolster. Try and take the same thing on both sides. But if you turned your head in one direction on the last side, you might turn it to the opposite here. Right away, you may notice a difference already between sides. So again, take note of it. See if you're gripping or clenching, holding on within the body. And then see if you can let go any amount. Shoulders soften. Relax through the fingers. Relax your back toes. So in this pose, sleeping swan, we are stimulating the spleen and stomach meridians, and those are both associated with feelings of worry and contentment. So noticing how you're feeling in this moment. We're also stimulating the gallbladder. Gallbladder can be associated, is associated with feelings of anger and or compassion. So notice if you're feeling any one of those things, and again, you might not be feeling any of them at all, but just notice what is the case for you, what is true for you. Every inhale, allow your whole spine to fill up with air. Every exhale, melt a little closer to the earth, soften a little more. Notice where the mind is. Bring it back to the breath if you've lost that connection to breath. Here for about another minute, soften completely. Last few breaths. And then ever so slowly, let's make our way back into a child's pose again. So slide the right knee back, the left knee forward a little. Props to the side. Child's pose for a few moments here. Just be here. And then slowly making your way back onto the hands and knees. Coming into our next pose, we're going to step the left foot forward, lift your back knee, and then step the right foot forward. So we know this is a forward fold. In Yin, we call this dangling. Relax the head, and you can use your props as well here. So you might bring your block or blocks on any level to rest the hands, maybe even to come down onto the forearms. And you can play around with the position of the block, find what works for you. And then settle in again here. So this is the only pose in Yin that is standing. All the other poses in Yin are either laying on your back, so a supine pose, or seated, or on your knees. But this is the only one where we're standing on our feet. So can we completely surrender here, even though we're standing? So you might put a little bend in your knees. Really important to relax the neck and the shoulders. Relax your fingers. And it's fine if your arms are not resting at all and you're just letting the arms dangle. Whatever works for you here. Sending our breath into the hamstrings, so the back of the legs. Visualize the breath going into into the stretch, into the backs of the legs, into wherever you're feeling the discomfort. And again, we're not in this shape, this pose, as long as we were the last or have been in some of the poses, but we're here long enough to feel it. We still try and surrender into every pose. So still find that stillness and that surrender. Find the breath. About 30 seconds left. Soften completely. Take 3 more breaths. And then we're going to move directly into our next shape. So hands to the mat, take your toes out as wide as your mat, your heels in, and then sink your bum down towards the earth. So our squat pose. A few options. So if this is too much, you can always bring a block underneath your sitting bones and sit on a block or on your bolster. If your heels are lifting for this one, you might roll up a blanket or your mat for padding underneath the heels. You can also try walking your feet out even wider. That can help bring the heels to the earth. With this one, you might bring your hands together in front of the heart and then use your elbows to press into your thighs. Or since it is yin, option to take your hands forward and just bow the head down. So try out what's going to be sustainable for you. So what shape are you going to be able to hold? And then settle yourself here, and then we just stay. Soften the shoulders. Really let the hips descend towards the earth. Relax all the muscles in the face, the jaw. So as I mentioned last practice, the jaw and hips are very connected. So if we can soften and relax through the jaw, it will help us soften and relax a little more into the hips as well. If you took one option, one way to take this shape, but it's not working for you and you want to switch things out, you can always do that. But then just come right back into stillness. Heels are heavy. If you'd like to incorporate a mantra here, I invite you to inhale the word peace. So say the word peace in your head. And exhale love. Every time we inhale, we say the word peace in our mind. Every time we exhale, we send love out into the world with our out breath. Good. Take a few more breaths. Take an inhale. Exhale, slowly lift your head if you're folding forward. Bring the prop out from underneath you if you're using it. Slowly bring your hands behind you, come onto your seat. And then let's take a moment here. Hands might come behind you, or you might have your hands to your knees or shins, and just kind of settle in. Take a moment to feel the rebound effect again. Just to notice what's happening here within the body, what's happening here within the mind. And sometimes it can be irritation or annoyed, and that's fine, that's normal, that can happen, but just notice it. Coming into our next shape from here, so we're going to turn towards one side of your mat to take your legs out wide, so our dragonfly pose. And since this is yin, don't worry about flexing the feet. You might even kind of let the feet flop or kind of go side to side. And then we're going to find a forward fold here. You might stay upright on your hands, just tucking chin towards the chest. This may be enough. If you want to use your props, you might bring your bolster in front of you to fold on. You might make a little bit of a ramp for yourself, so bringing your block underneath your bolster, your pillow, and then slowly starting to fold forward any amount. And turning your head to one side, or your head could be at center. I'll let you know when we're at the halfway mark, and you can turn your head the opposite direction if your head is turned. So no force or strain here. Remember, we're not trying to reach our maximum potential. We're just allowing our body to open up naturally. Noticing what's coming up for you mentally here. So we're getting into the bladder meridian is affected here. And the bladder meridian is associated with fear and acceptance. So noticing if you feel one of those things. We're also stimulating the liver and kidney meridians. And again, those two are also associated with feelings of anger and or compassion. So notice what comes up for you here. Relax the shoulders, relax your fingers. If your head is turned in one direction, now is a great time to turn it to the opposite direction. If you feel like the body's opening up and you'd like to go a little deeper, option to remove one layer of props. But that's only optional. You can always stay exactly as you are. The mind is wandering, you can come back to that mantra of inhaling peace, exhaling love. Noticing the types of thoughts that come up when we're in this shape. Notice if they change or are any different than when we were in a hip opener. So again, just being aware of and the witness to our thoughts. Take your last few deep breaths. And then ever so slowly and gently, using the support of the hands, slowly bring yourself upright. Move your props off to the side. And then hands to the backs of the knees, lean back slightly, help your legs together. Good, take a moment here just to notice, to witness, to observe. Blink the eyes open. Let's roll onto our backs. So nice and slow, no rush to get there. Come all the way down onto the back. I almost always like to incorporate at least one twist in every practice, in every yin practice if I can. So arms out to the sides if you have lots of room. You can always cactus the elbows. If you're okay with a cross-legged twist, let's cross the left knee over top of the right. Slowly lower your knees to the right. You might bring your knees to a block or bolster, and then turn your head either straight up to center to neutral or turn it to the left. You might even turn it to the right to face the same direction as your knees, as long as you do the same thing on the next side. Then we're keeping things nice and balanced. Close your eyes or keep your gaze soft. then just be right here in your twist. As still as we possibly can, as present as we can be. Take a few more breaths here in your twist. And if your head is turned in one direction, bring it back to center. Engage your core so that we can bring our knees back safely to center. Uncross the legs. Let's squeeze the knees in towards the chest. Just for a few breaths. A moment to notice the difference between one side and the other. And slowly return the feet to the mat. Right knee this time crosses over the left, arms again wherever works for you. And then slowly lower your knees to the left, turning your head if you turned it on the first side. And then soften here, noticing our tendency to grip and hold on through that top hip, that right hip. See if you can soften and let go any amount there. Last few deep breaths. And then again, if your head is turned, bring your head back to center. Engage your core, bring your knees slowly back to center. Uncross the legs and then hug the knees in towards the chest. Notice that peaceful feeling come over us. And then let us come into Shavasana from here, grabbing your bolster if you would like it underneath your knees. I always like it under the knees if I have it nearby. And then finding that shape, that position that's going to make sense for you in this moment. So shoulders again down away from the ears. Turn the palms upward if that works. Let your feet flop open. Closing the eyes when you're ready. And just notice the position of the head. Notice if you're leaning more to one side or the other. See if you can find balance within the head and the neck. Notice if one shoulder is higher than the other. See if you can find just balance all over throughout the body. The more balanced that we can be, the easier it is for us to surrender into our Shavasana. So let's relax every muscle in the face. Relax your mouth. Relax your throat. You might even swallow here to release tension in the throat. Relax the shoulders all the way down through the arms, the hands, the fingers. Slow, soft breath. Relax the chest and the belly. The entire spine. Feel the whole spine connecting to the mat. Let your hips get heavy here. Relax your legs, your knees, ankles, your feet and your toes. So we find this stillness again within our body. And then let's find that similar stillness within the mind. If you have the time to stay, please stay. Otherwise, start to welcome in some fuller, deeper breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. Taking some slight movements, wiggling our fingers, our toes, maybe making circles with the wrists and ankles. And then in your own time, slowly bending the knees and making your way onto your side just for a moment, a few breaths. Using the support of our hand to help press ourselves up to a comfortable seated position. Okay. Make yourself comfortable, sit up nice and tall. Bring our hands to the heart. Bow our head towards our hands. Thank you so much to our bodies for this work they do for us daily. Take our moment of gratitude, thinking of something or someone that you're grateful for today. I am grateful to each and every one of you sharing your practice and your energy with me, even if it's from afar. Namaste. Thank you. See you again soon.